Hey, you guys, welcome back for another episode of Gabby Hour, and it's a special one. This is the season one finale. And the reason why I'm doing a little bit of a season format, gives me a break to catch up on some interviews that I have in store for you guys for season two, and also just to see the progress of this channel wherever it goes, seeing the editing improve, seeing the format improve, and just seeing my interview style as a host grow along the way. So, we got a really exciting one for episode seven today. It's someone that I've known for quite a while, caught up with because of this show, and she was so great to talk to. Had a great journey in the collegiate ranks of women's basketball, also a stunt in the WNBA, and now she is venturing off into the next chapter of her career as an assistant coach for a high D1 level program. So let's give this special guest a warm welcome to Gabby Hour. Celeste Taylor, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on it. I always start off the show with introducing my guests based on how we met, and I would say ours was pretty a while ago as we were talking off camera. I think it was middle school. Don't know if it was like sixth or seventh grade, around that, but
Mhm.
it was we were teammates for a little bit on a travel all-star team on Long Island. But
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met you was that tryout. You rolled up. I was feeling good. I was like, all right, I'm gonna nail this tryout. I got it. Celeste rolls in. She's got the beats on, the slides. Literally, someone you don't want to play against. She walks in. I was like, crap. And sure enough, balls out. Uh, Thankfully, I did too, I guess. And we became teammates. And I have a couple pictures. I'll show them on the screen as we're talking. And after that tournament, Celeste exploded and you became like an icon for not only Long Island basketball, but then you made your own name just in the collegiate ranks. So, first and foremost, kudos to you. And I want to start this off by kind of going into your experience with Long Island basketball, how that kind of introduced you to your love for basketball and also the style you play in as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. It's pretty unique. I grew up in Queens, but I moved out to Long Island around fifth grade, actually fourth grade. And I mean, from there, I mean, I just feel like going to Long Island Lutheran really helped because we had people from all over there. So I would say like that was probably the biggest piece for me. I had an extremely great coach there. Kerry was actually the assistant coach, but he was also my lightning coach. So yeah, I mean, it was my first time actually playing on an AAU team. I played in like CYO, but like, it was just having fun. I was, just very athletic, could jump, could run, and play defense. So I feel like I kind of just try to make a name for myself on that side of the floor. But yeah, I mean, now being in Long Island, you don't really see too many people, coming out and going pro. So it's been pretty cool. I mean, Bria Hartley's out there, in the W right now. Actually, she's with the Connecticut Sun, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm definitely blessed and grateful. I mean, I've met amazing people along the way who are doing their own thing, going on their own path of life and career. So it's been great.
This was circulated before the draft that you were part of. Was that team photo from the USA team? I think it was you. What was it? U17. It was
Yeah.
around 2017, 2018, something like that. But you were still in high school nonetheless, and you played with Caitlin Clark. You played with Haley Van Lith. Can you take me back to that experience and what that was like in those formative years?
Honestly, it was crazy. I've actually got to play with Caitlin on a USC A team twice. Paige, I believe I was with Paige for 3 years.
That's
Aaliyah
right, Paige
Boston.
Beckers as well. She was the grade
Yeah.
below. Yep, yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was honestly so cool because obviously they're phenomenal basketball players. But I've been able to create a real friendship with them. Each and every one of them, obviously our own different type of style between each other. But yeah, I mean it's great. I think it was so cool. But at the same time, I really took a minute to like self-reflect and honestly, like when I thought about it, I was like, wow, like, I'm actually, on a USA team. At that part, you were just focused on being on the USA team. And then now looking back at it, it's just like, you have these WNBA rookies who are like those girls, they're all-stars, they're in the starting lineup for all-star games in the WNBA. So just looking back on it, you're like, wow, like we basically grew up playing together. And taking nothing away from them, like, we had really good classes. I think the 2019, 2020 classes were really, really good.
It didn't stop there with that team. You still had a couple more championships and stuff that you were part of, right?
I did a U19 after that, and that was in Thailand. And I played with like Ryan Howard, Naz Hillman. Like I can't put into words what, it means to me, to be able to have the opportunity to not only play with them, but be a part of Team USA in those developmental years. And then going to college, like, got to win a Big Ten championship, which was really cool. Got to make it to the Elite Eight, which was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I mean, I've had my fair share and parts of, some big time wins, some big time games. But like I said before, just very grateful and just feel very blessed to be in those rooms and be a part of situations like that.
And glad you added college already. So you were at three top-notch programs. Texas, it started out, and you went to the Elite Eight with them, which right off the bat, who can? That's more than many people's careers. Then you go to Duke, back in North Carolina, where I was for a little bit last year, and then you finally ended with Ohio State. You were this defensive assassin guarding, of course, guarding Caitlin Clark, guarding the biggest names, Paige, I'm sure, again. Those old teammates, those former teammates. But when it was all said and done, looking back on that college career, uh, what do you take away from it the most?
Especially now, well, I would say a couple years ago, like the transfer portal was looked at so negatively, right? And I never went into it wanting to be in the portal. I picked my school. I went to the University of Texas. I love the university. I love the city. But, things just didn't work out that way. I got a new coach after my freshman year. And so, I obviously wasn't um, with the same coaches that recruited me and I committed to. So things changed there. And then I went to Duke, had a great time there. Nothing bad to say about the program. I had a coach who ended up leaving, going to South Carolina. So I ended up going to Ohio State. Um, I'm back with him now at GCU, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, just I would say the biggest thing that I took away from that is being able to adapt in any and every situation. Even going into the WNBA, like, that was a big thing that they looked at, the fact that I went to three different schools. And like I said before, it's kind of has a bad rap to it, being in the portal and going to three different universities. But it also just helped me be able to find my role on any and every team. And then just be able to adapt, like I said, in whatever situation I'm placed in, whether it is the location, the school, classes, the different style of play, the different coaching styles, like it just gave me such a big perspective on the game of basketball, and also life.
I definitely think people don't understand the when you see someone that's always out in the front lines of media and things like that, on the big stages in basketball, they're not human to the fans and things like that, and they don't understand even WNBA, NBA. If you're traded, you got to pack up and leave. You got to pack your bags and go. Same in real life. If your mom or dad has a new job and you got to move, you got to go with them. So
Yep.
in your case, you had two coaches in a row. They left. So you're like, well, then what? And I want to hear from you. What was that emotional aspect as an athlete in those moments? What was that like? Did you have to, communicate with your parents? Was there anyone you went to talk about it in your next moves?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely tough. It really is definitely tough. And like, you think like when you're a little kid, like when your mom's like, you have to come to the store with me, you think that's such a big deal? And like you said, like you literally have to pack up and go somewhere else. And, you know, I think the hardest part for me was leaving my teammates. Um, I've had the best teammates I've been so lucky to be on teams where, I've have been able to create a bond with every single one of my teammates. And each of them has left their own lasting impact on me. And I hope that I've left something for them to carry with. But I mean, that was probably the hardest part. I think emotionally, you don't want to do that. Like I left Texas after going to the Elite Eight. And like, you think you're gonna bring back the same team and then take another step, maybe hit the Final Four. And I think for me, that mindset of the first transfer was just like, I want to go somewhere where I am very happy. I enjoy a little bit closer to home. Parents can drive to come see me. And then I can just get that player development aspect. And that's where I ended up going to Duke. Um, but I think for me, my parents had a lot to do with my transfer, just as far as like, they were the people that I went to talk. Like they never forced me in any direction, which I'm very grateful for, but they were there to just listen. They were there to obviously give their input, what they thought. Leaving Texas was they loved Texas when they came to visit. They really enjoyed it. They loved my freshman year coaches. So it was hard for everyone. But I think in that point is when I drew a lot closer in my faith and to God. I know I think it was just, days where you feel like you're just stuck and you don't know what to do. Everybody leans on something different, but in my case, that was where I drew closer and grew in my faith. So yeah, after that, those were probably the two biggest things that I would say helped me that year. And then my last transfer, I mean, I feel like I had grew emotionally and I was more emotionally mature. And so at that point, it was just like, what is going to help me best in my future? Obviously getting a master's degree from Duke would have been amazing. But at that point, I was really focused on entering the draft. And I just wanted to make sure that I was ready for it in my mind, my play. So yeah, that in turn became what that was.
Not to mention you were juggling all of that during COVID too. So COVID, oh, and then this little thing called the NIL comes
Yeah.
out, so you have to juggle all of that on the background. Like it's just unbelievable. And again, I can't give you enough kudos for just how you've navigated your journey, which is, and it's so awesome to hear from you. But now segueing into it, the draft. That was probably on your mind. Would you assume like the beginning of like senior year?
My last year at Duke, it was definitely heavy because I just felt like everything was my last. Like I really hadn't put thought into whether I was going to take my fifth year or not, believe it or not. Um, like that whole year, it was just like I remember we played UConn in Portland for the Thanksgiving tournament, and I knew there was a ton of WNBA teams there, the GMs watching, and I stunk it up. Like I just remember I like played bad that game. The next game against Oregon State, I did a lot better, but I just remember I was like so down on myself. I was like I usually feel like I shine during, those moments, but for that just game, whatever happened had happened. And so I think that year it was a lot of pressure. I put a lot of pressure on myself. So when I finally made the decision to take my fifth year, I already announced that I was coming back to Duke. And then the coach, my assistant coach had left, who was working with me with player development and stuff, and he ended up going to South Carolina. So then I was like, all right, let me just go to Ohio State. Um, and then that final year, it was like you really know, like, okay, I don't have I don't have time to like think about if I'm gonna take another year. Like this is the last one. Like you have to go out with a bang. And so you do put a little bit of pressure on yourself at that point, but I was just like, this is my last year. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna be in the moment. Um, for me, I was like, even contemplating like the whole draft process, honestly, because they're right now, with the CBA and everything, like the salaries are not. And I knew I had gotten my undergrad in psychology and then I got my master's in sports management. And I was like, I definitely can find a job and make a lot more money. So at that point, you're like, do you do it for the love of the game of how much that I loved playing basketball? Um, and like the journey and the process that it's taken me on, or do I like just prepare for my future, um, of having a family and, getting myself stable and having some stability. And so I think that was kind of going through my head as well. So it was just like, I only get this chance. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So why not? Why not go and explore that route? And it was not that I didn't think I couldn't do it. Like I always knew I could do it in the back of my head. And so I was like, yeah.
That is such a mature way as a 22 or 3-year-old to be thinking that far ahead. But these are like the biggest moments in your life happening months apart from each other, which
Mm.
is unbelievable. And that Ohio State year it was a lot. There was a lot of basketball it was a long season. And I want to hear from you first. A lot of player development with multiple coaches and multiple coaching staffs. But when you got to Ohio State, what type of player did you want to be and ended up being?
That is definitely a major question, a great question, actually. So I was always, in a way, the face of a program. I was, you could say, the go-to player. And I now had put myself in a position where I wasn't going to be the face of the program. I was probably going to be the third or fourth option. Um, and I was okay with that. Like I don't think that was my biggest thing. I think what went through my head is like I'm gonna put myself in a position to where I'm gonna have to find my role. I'm gonna have to find a way to impact the game without one, having the ball in my hand, and two, having that prior camaraderie with the team, or that prior leadership with the team. There's people that have been there since they were freshmen. So they know the program, they know the university, they know most of the girls, they know the coaching staff. Like they've had that relationship with them. So they understood that. So I put myself in a very vulnerable position for me personally, what I believe was very vulnerable. And so I went into a situation where I knew the girls were good, really good. They had made it to the Elite Eight the past year. And yeah, I was just in the mindset of like, you are going to do whatever the team needs you to do to win. And I was always like that, but I think it just put it even in a bigger perspective for me of just like this is what you're gonna have to do in the WNBA. Like if I'm a realist and I'm gonna be realistic, like I wasn't gonna start in the W. Like I wasn't gonna just join a team and start. Um and I didn't even know if I was gonna play for real. Like I didn't know if I was gonna make a roster, if we're being honest here. Like I knew I could do it, but there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of things that go on, there's a lot of ways that teams think that their GMs think that their team should be made, created, and who they should have on it. And that's completely up to them. You have no say so regardless of how you do. And so yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna have to do this in the league, so this is where you're gonna be, and you're gonna ride it out and you're gonna figure it out, and whatever is meant to be will be. But at the end of the day, it's gonna grow you as a person and a player. So figure it out.
And that competitive mindset shift is exactly what a coach talks like and sounds like. So, but again, you had to go through it to have this new chapter of your life as well, and continuing on that final year of college hoops, you became the go-to on the defensive end, and you did make that name for yourself. Again, I said it before, guarding people like Paige Beckers. You guarded Caitlin Clark when she broke the three-point record. You were the one on her. Like, that's incredible. And I'm sure, yeah, sure, she made the shot, but you're the one that's guarding her. And in those moments, did you have a sense of pride that this was your new identity in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a defensive minded kid, honestly. I knew that was what's gonna get me on the floor, really. And I knew Ohio State knew that when they got me, they knew what they were getting in a sense of on the defensive end. Like, you need someone to help somebody, like somebody gets blown by, I'm gonna be right there. Like they're going on a fast break layup. Celeste is the one that's running down, first man down to, block contested shot or whatever. And so I kind of had a feel of what I was getting myself into and knew that I would probably be end up being that person. But I think for me, like that pride always comes on the defensive end. And especially with Ohio State, I knew, I was putting myself in a new position. Obviously, teams don't always play the same defenses, so I had to learn their defense and how they like to play it. We did have the press, the infamous press that everyone loves to talk about. But I mean, I really just enjoyed it. I really just, took the time to like I said, just always do whatever the team needs and invest in that. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy because like, I played with Caitlin Clark, so like guarding her now and like just seeing how much she's grown, is pretty cool. And so the crowds were great, at pretty much every game. So it was cool. We won the first one. They got us on the second one. So
Obviously, after a great season at Ohio State, then comes the draft. And take me back to that night, or maybe the days leading up to it. How much pressure and just stress was that like? And how much did you enjoy it? This is such an exciting thing. You got invited to New York City to be a part of the draft class things. I mean, there is so much to unpack, and I'm sure you still process it once in a while, right?
Draft, the Indiana Fever select Celeste Taylor, Ohio State University.
yeah, no, it was honestly so crazy. So like it's a pretty big draft class. You think about all the kids that are graduating in the class of 2024. So you're like, all right, like now only 15 get invited. And, I knew I was coming out with Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Camilla Cardozo, Rakia Jackson. Like I knew I was coming out with all those people, Cam. Like, so, it's just like, all right, well, how many people do I think, will get invited, And so um, yeah, I got a call that I was invited, and I had JC Sheldon, who was my teammate at Ohio State. She was also invited, so that was pretty cool that there were two teammates there. But yeah, it was crazy, and the fact that it was back in New York City, where I'm from, I mean, I think it just made it 10 times better. But I mean, you go through some interviews. Like I know the NBA has their whole draft process and they have the combine. Like we don't have all that. We just have the draft interviews with some teams that want to reach out to you. So I spoke to three teams, and so like when the day of the draft comes around, you're like, okay, like what these three teams have these picks. Um, this is where they can see you landing. Like if you're available, they'll pick you. Um, and my agent was really good about that stuff, like having a template of things to ask the coaches and the coaching staff, what you want to know, some things that they would probably touch base with me on, what they liked about my game, what they don't like, they think I need to work on, all that fun stuff. And I ended up getting drafted by one of the teams that I didn't even speak to. So I think in that moment, you're just like, I mean, I wouldn't say that you're like let down, but you're just like, okay. Like, I mean, I'm very happy and grateful that they picked me. But you're just like, okay, like I don't know what I'm getting myself into in a sense. And the crazy thing enough is Caitlin got drafted to Indiana and I got drafted to Indiana. So, it was kind of funny, but it was like, just a little awkward for me. I was just like, like what's going on? Like what am I getting myself into? What it's gonna be like? And so in that moment you just feel happy. Like I think that's the one thing that I can just think about is you're just very happy and in shock. Um I said I wasn't gonna cry, and then I hugged my mom and she starts whispering some things in my ear and the
The
tears start.
moms.
Always, always the moms. But no, it was a great experience. We had during the draft, like the days leading up to the draft, they do a whole bunch of different meetings. They talk about everything that you could possibly think of in those meetings. I have been to have some photo shoots, some interviews, some really cool interviews that I was able to do. Um, but it was great. It was just a fun time to be around of some of the other girls that were getting drafted. A lot of them I did, kind of know, so that was cool as well. But yeah, I mean, just in that moment, you're just like, wow, like in a way you want to say you made it, but You really didn't?
Then the work begins.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I want to go into that. What were the first few practices and games like? Was that stressful? And also finding a place in Indiana, like, oh, now we're going to another place.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy, but so I want to say a week and a half after that, I make it to Indiana with all the girls. I want to say there was about 15 of us on the training camp roster, maybe 16. Um, and so they put the rookies in a hotel for the time being, just because, they don't know if you're going to be on the team or not for that during that time. They gave us a rental car, which was pretty cool. A rental car in the hotel room. And you get a spot in the locker room. And yeah, I mean, it was just right to training camp basically. Like we were just starting up training camp and honestly, I would say that I'm very grateful. I went through a whole bunch of different coaching staffs like we talked about prior, so like I feel like I was up to pace with a lot of stuff. Like there weren't things that I didn't understand or didn't know. Um but I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was just playing basketball to me. Like it was fun. I ended up making the team. But then we had a situation where we had 13 players and one was recovering from an injury, so she wasn't getting paid at that time. But by July 1st, they had to cut it down to 12. And I happened to be the person that they waived and let go. Which was like, it's upsetting because you don't know what it is that you're doing wrong. Like at in that point in time, like it was more of like, sorry, we have too many players, and you're just like basically like the last rookie that we took on. So
You
like
finally
you just
saw the
have her
financial side of the
back.
WNBA, the NBA, and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I got waived, and I went home for a week, um, and hung out with family and friends, which was amazing. And then I ended up going to the University of Texas San Antonio, where my freshman year coach is from Texas, now coach. And I was working out with them. And the day before I was supposed to go home, I get a text from my agent saying that the Phoenix Mercury wants me. So was I packed for that? No. I had whatever I had with me in San Antonio. Thankfully, I was working out, so I did have, my basketball shoes. But yeah, I mean, I ended up going there. I was on a 7-day contract, but what was crazy about that 7 day was I think the 7 days are like go by like practice days and games. And I was kind of in the stretch right before All-Star break. So I got to play, I want to say 2 or 3 games, and then the All-Star break happened, and then I was still had like 2 days left on that. So I was kind of with them for like I want to say 3 weeks ish. Um, and then I was on a 7 day, so that passed by, and they were like, we really love you. We wish we could have you, but like with people coming back from injury and blah blah blah, like that's that. And so after that went by the last game, Connecticut picks me up. So I go
All
from
over the country.
yeah, everywhere, like literally everywhere. Connecticut picked me up, and then Connecticut wanted to sign me for the rest of the season, but Phoenix made a trade, so they wanted me back. So I went back to Phoenix. I felt really comfortable there. I ended up starting like 2 or 3 games, I want to say, which was crazy. Got to play with Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, like, it was just definitely, I would say, one of the best rookie experiences that anyone could have.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And I love that when you talk about it, instead of caring about the headline, oh, Celeste Taylor waved. No, it's I got to do that. And that's what I love about when we're talking and what I want to show viewers is just that's the type of person you are and that's what your journey did for you. And now I want to get into right now you're on a coaching staff of a very high D1 college, Grand Canyon University. How is that going right now? And, explain a little bit why you transferred to coaching. You said it with your college credit or college major. You said a little bit that kind of transformed that love for that. But also, what does it feel like right now?
So I wanted to help kids. I knew I wanted to get into coaching at some point. So the opportunity arose. I was waived. I was going through an injury this past training camp, so that came into play a little bit as well. But I'm content with my basketball career. I am, honestly. Like, I did things that I never thought that I would be able to do or could do, honestly, or would have the chance or opportunity to do. And I'm very grateful for that. And I think that right now I'm in a new phase in my life where I just want to give back. I want to impact. I want these girls to have the experiences that I did in college. Um, and just know that somebody's always there to talk and that the people around you really want you to get better. So yeah, the assistant coach that ended up going to South Carolina, he became the head coach here. The position opened up and he asked me, to be on the staff with him. And, I'm very grateful for that. And I think now I'm just in a space where I do get to play a little bit against them, just making sure that, they're on top of their game. And they still know I got it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's been great just trying to find my role and my space and, my individual workouts and, you know, instead of actually being on the court and using my voice and that leadership role that I'm always used to being in, like now I'm on the sideline, and I can't play for them and I know what it feels like and just letting them know that there's somebody in your shoes, or I was in their shoes, or they are now in my shoes. So just making sure that they know that they have this space to be who they are and that people around them, like I said before, want them to get better and reach their potential.
That is so awesome. Celeste, one more question. As a coach or just as a former player, any advice for people who are maybe an athlete at a high D1 or low D3 or they're in high school? Any hooper just trying to get to their fullest potential. Any advice you got if they're going through a tough time?
Yeah, I would say like don't compare your journey to anyone else's journey. Like your journeys are gonna have their ebb and flows. They're gonna have their mountains and hills and just be who you are, but like know that you're in this space for a reason. And like one of my favorite quotes is like you've been assigned this mountain to show others that it can be moved. And so like just know who you are and be who you are and never compare what your assignment is to anyone else's assignment because it'll never be the same. But always have faith in yourself, no matter what people around you have to say, and do things until you feel content with the way they're done.
Celeste, thank you so much. All of her information will be in the description. Find her on social media. She's also hosting camps once in a while. I see it on social media as well. So if you want all that information, go follow her. Go follow GCU Women's Hoops as well. Celeste, thanks.
Thank you.